XLM holders might quietly be positioning themselves to become the new 1%. And the wildest part? Most of the market hasn't even realized it yet. While crypto Twitter is busy chasing the next meme pump, while influencers are still shilling dog coins with no use case and whales are orchestrating swing traps, Stellar just pulled off one of its cleanest power moves yet, and barely anyone's talking about it. It flipped SHIB. Let that marinate for a second. $XLM just surged past Shiba Inu in market cap, pushing over $9.3 billion and officially breaking into the elite tier of crypto assets. Without hype, without a cult army, without Elon tweets, just real-world traction. Now ask yourself, how many utility-driven projects can actually say that? Stellar isn't trying to be the next meme. It's not trying to game the system with artificial burns, liquidity traps, or fake news. It's doing something far more dangerous to the status quo. It's winning by building. This is a project that's been laser-focused on solving trillion-dollar problems like cross-border payments, on-chain FX, and tokenizing real assets for global institutions, and now it's finally being recognized for what it is. Infrastructure, not speculation. And let's be honest, SHIB had its moment. Massive run, passionate community, media attention. But what happens when that hype runs dry? XLM isn't a trend, it's a backbone. And with Soroban smart contracts now fully live, Stellar just activated its second engine. This isn't just a payments network anymore. It's a full-blown smart contract platform optimized for compliance, speed, and real-world use. So while the herd is still staring at charts, Stellar is changing the rails underneath them. It's playing a different game. And that's what makes this flippening so significant. This wasn't just a minor market shuffle. It was a shift in narrative. It was the moment the market said, maybe utility does matter. Maybe actual adoption does mean something. Maybe it's time to stop laughing at Stellar and start looking at who's quietly buying in. Because while SHIB holders are hoping for another 100x off tweets, XLM holders are watching institutions tokenize treasuries, onboard CBDCs, and settle real-world value live on-chain. And if you're paying attention, you're already way ahead of 99% of this market. So what's really happening with XLM right now? Let's break it down. The flippening, XLM just overtook SHIB. This wasn't just a market move. This was a message. For months, Stellar and Shiba Inu have been shadowboxing for dominance, dancing around each other in the market cap rankings. On one side, SHIB, the memecoin juggernaut with one of the loudest and most aggressive retail armies in the game. On the other, XLM, calm, consistent, largely ignored, but building like a machine behind the scenes. And then boom, a quiet 6% surge in XLM. A little sell pressure on SHIB. And just like that, Stellar leapfrogged Shiba Inu on the leaderboard. It now sits comfortably above SHIB on CoinMarketCap. No fluff, no hype cycle, just hard numbers and fundamentals. Now let's be clear, this isn't just some superficial reshuffling of digital trophies. This is a signal, a warning shot to the hype-driven layer of crypto that the narrative is shifting. For too long, market cap rankings have been clogged with speculative assets that move purely off sentiment, social engagement, and coordinated pump cycles. No roadmap, no adoption, no product. But Stellar? It's been quietly onboarding institutions, powering real-world asset tokenization, integrating with banks, and becoming the go-to chain for cross-border payments and stablecoin settlement. And now that flippening, that's the market starting to acknowledge it. We're witnessing a changing of the guard from memecoins and mania to infrastructure and impact. Stellar is stepping into a new tier, not because it played the retail game better, but because it didn't play it at all. It just built. And that's what makes this such a pivotal moment. The market is starting to reward utility. It's starting to recognize which chains are actually being used, not just traded. And Stellar's rise isn't powered by hype. It's powered by adoption metrics, by strategic integrations, and now by the full unlock of Soroban smart contracts on mainnet. This is what happens when a sleeping giant starts moving. And SHIB? Well, it's facing the harsh truth that memes alone can only take you so far. When the narrative turns to fundamentals, you either have real-world value, or you don't. Stellar does. And this flippening is just the beginning. Because if XLM can dethrone a retail-fueled memecoin like SHIB with this much ease, just imagine what happens when the next tier wakes up to what Stellar's really doing. The top 10 isn't a goal anymore. It's the next stop. Why XLM is quietly attracting institutional attention. Let's talk about smart money. Because while the herd is busy watching meme charts pump and dump on Elon tweets, institutions are quietly moving billions onto the rails that actually matter. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. They're choosing Stellar. Let's break this down. Franklin Templeton, one of the largest asset managers on the planet, is literally using Stellar to tokenize U.S. Treasury funds. That's not a test. That's not a pilot. That's live. That's institutional-grade tokenized finance on-chain on Stellar. This isn't just a cool headline. It's the future of capital markets being rewritten. Traditional finance is finally waking up to blockchain, and when it asks, which network is ready? Stellar is standing there with real infrastructure, real compliance, and real throughput. Now here's where it gets even deeper. Taurus, a digital asset platform backed by Deutsche Bank, just expanded its token issuance capabilities to Stellar as well. That means legacy banks, actual gatekeepers of global finance, are building on Stellar. Why? Because Stellar is compliance-first, low-fee, and built for interoperability. It doesn't play the Ethereum tax game. It doesn't sacrifice speed for decentralization. It's tailored for financial institutions from day one, and now they're finally realizing it. Still not impressed? MoneyGram. Yeah, that MoneyGram, the legacy remittance behemoth used by millions worldwide, is using Stellar's blockchain to settle transactions in USDC. That means real-world payments, settled in stablecoin across borders in seconds. Not in theory, in production. This is what separates Stellar from the noise. Because no meme coin, none, can compete with that level of real-world utility. You can't community your way into being the backbone of cross-border finance. You can't Doge your way into sovereign asset tokenization. You either have infrastructure that scales with compliance, or you don't. And Stellar is already there. And here's the kicker, Soroban smart contracts just went live on mainnet. You know what that means? Stellar just upgraded from a specialized payments network to a full-stack blockchain platform. It's no longer just a remittance rail. It's a playground for institutions to deploy on-chain finance. We're talking institutional DeFi built with regulatory guardrails, tokenized money market funds and real-world assets, CBDCs running with programmable logic, permissioned smart contracts that don't break compliance. All of it live on Stellar. This isn't some future roadmap. This is right now. So while influencers are chasing pump and dumps and retail FOMO, institutions are positioning themselves around the chain that's actually solving real problems. And that chain is Stellar. They don't care about hype. They care about rails. They care about compliance. They care about performance. They care about trustless infrastructure that doesn't scare regulators. And Stellar checks every box. That's why XLM is quietly becoming the go-to token behind the scenes. And for those paying attention, that's where generational wealth is made. Price action, trading volume, and the quiet accumulation phase. So while crypto influencers are busy hyping the next memecoin rug pull, let's talk about what actually matters, price action and volume. Because right now, XLM is trading around 30 cents, and most people aren't paying attention. But the smart ones are. Zoom in on the daily trading volume, over $270 million. That's not noise. That's not a one-day spike from retail FOMO. That's steady, calculated inflows, the kind that signal strategic positioning from funds, market makers, and insiders who know something is brewing. And if you've looked at Stellar's chart lately, you know this isn't just a random move. In the last 3 weeks, XLM's market cap has surged over 600%. That's not a typo. That's 6 times more market cap in less than a month. Let that marinate. Now ask yourself, what's changed? It's not because of hype. It's not because Elon tweeted. And it's definitely not because crypto influencers suddenly fell in love with Stellar. It's because the fundamentals are aligning. Soroban went live. Institutional integrations are ramping up. Trading volume is rising without the usual volatility whiplash. And partnerships, from MoneyGram to Taurus, are transitioning from pilot to production. This is what a quiet accumulation phase looks like. When smart money moves in, it doesn't announce itself with billboards. It does it slowly, strategically, and silently, accumulating during periods of low hype, low resistance, and high conviction. And that's what's happening with XLM right now. You're looking at a digital asset that has all the markers of an incoming supply shock. Real-world utility, institutional rails live and running, developer ecosystem expanding, trading volume rising steadily, market cap exploding quietly without mainstream coverage. And when these kinds of fundamentals converge, price doesn't just move, it breaks out. Because here's the thing. Stellar doesn't rely on influencers to stay relevant. It doesn't need billion-dollar marketing campaigns. The protocol speaks for itself, and institutions are finally listening. Think about the setup. 30 cents range equals psychological resistance that's now turning into support. Liquidity zones getting swept up by high-volume, low-volatility candles. RSI trending upward without being overheated. Whale wallets accumulating mid-tier bags, not just a few giant buys, but a pattern of consistent institutional entries. And retail? They haven't even noticed yet. They're still chasing meme coins. That's how the next 1% is formed. Not through hype, not through noise, but through positioning early and quietly. So while everyone else wakes up after the breakout, you'll already be holding the bag, but this time in a good way. Because if this volume keeps climbing, if Soroban adoption keeps accelerating, and if the market finally starts rewarding fundamentals over fluff, XLM isn't just going to move, it's going to melt faces. And the best part? Most people still think it's dead. XLM and the global financial system, the billion-dollar use case. If you're still looking at XLM through the lens of a retail altcoin, you're missing the entire point. Because while Ethereum chokes on gas fees, and Solana flips a coin every time it wants to stay online, Stellar is silently positioning itself as the financial infrastructure of the future. This isn't hopium. This isn't theory. This is happening right now. Let's start with the obvious. Cross-border payments. It's a $10 trillion market. It's slow, expensive, and inefficient. Exactly the type of dinosaur industry crypto was meant to disrupt. But while others talk about it, Stellar is executing. MoneyGram has already chosen Stellar rails for stablecoin remittances. That's not just a proof of concept, it's live, global, and onboarding real users. Circle's USDC is fully integrated, making XLM a native on-ramp and off-ramp for dollar-pegged digital money. And thanks to Stellar's native compliance tooling and Soroban smart contracts, the ecosystem can now scale into tokenized trade finance, regulated asset issuance, and DeFi lending for businesses, without needing to duct tape layer 2s or bridges. Still think it's a meme coin? Now let's zoom in on Palago Labs, one of the most underrated catalysts in Stellar's ecosystem. They're building DeFi-powered trade credit markets directly on Soroban. That means exporters and importers, actual global businesses, can access liquidity faster, transparently, and without the absurd delays of legacy banks. This is the evolution of finance. And Stellar is writing the code behind it. But here's the kicker. Unlike other chains still trying to get regulatory clarity, Stellar is already ISO 20022 compliant. That's the global standard for banking messages. SWIFT is migrating to it. Major institutions are standardizing around it. And Stellar? It's already speaking the language of global finance. That makes XLM regulation ready, banking ready, institution ready. You think TradFi is going to build on meme chains? No. They want uptime. They want predictability. They want compliant rails, programmable assets, and settlement finality in seconds, not minutes. That's Stellar's lane. And while the market is just starting to catch on, insiders already know, XLM isn't chasing hype, it's replacing legacy systems. You're not looking at a moonshot token. You're looking at the core layer of a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure upgrade that's been quietly brewing for years. And now, with Soroban fully live, with regulatory-friendly architecture already in place, and with real-world partners going beyond pilots into deployment, the floodgates are about to open. This is what it looks like when a blockchain stops being a crypto project and starts becoming a critical pillar of global finance. Most people won't see it until it's too obvious to ignore. But you're early, and that edge could be life-changing. Why Stellar XLM holders could be the new 1%. This isn't about gambling on the next meme token that trends for 48 hours and dies by the weekend. This is about positioning, locking in exposure to one of the most undervalued, underhyped, and underappreciated pieces of digital financial infrastructure on the planet before the rest of the world catches up. Because if you're holding XLM right now, you're not just speculating. You're early. You're ahead of the curve. You're front-running a transition that's already in motion, from centralized, siloed financial systems to decentralized, compliant, and programmable rails. Let's be crystal clear. If Stellar continues onboarding institutions, if Soroban drives DeFi into regulated use cases, if tokenized treasuries, cross-border payments, and real-world assets keep flowing into the ecosystem, then this isn't just a coin anymore. It's equity in the future of finance. The real play here isn't chasing 15-minute green candles. It's holding through the noise while the foundation of the next global financial order gets laid brick by brick on Stellar's protocol. Because here's what most people forget. The early Bitcoin holders, they weren't chasing pumps. They were holding something that seemed crazy until it wasn't. The early Ethereum believers, they endured years of FUD, crashes, and delays. And now they own pieces of the smart contract economy. Now it's Stellar's turn. And if even 10% of the cross-border market, or a fraction of the $30 trillion tokenized securities market, flows through Stellar rails, XLM doesn't just go up. It rewrites wealth dynamics. We're talking 10x, 20x, even higher. Because this isn't about hype, it's about hard value being processed at scale. The kind of shift that turns early believers into the new 1%. Not because they got lucky, but because they saw utility before the masses did. And right now, XLM is still under $1. Still outside the top 10. Still flying under the radar while headlines chase noise. But that won't last forever. Because when the institutions fully move in, when retail wakes up, when regulation forces the shift toward compliant, real-world ready chains, guess who'll already be there? You, the XLM holder. The one who didn't flinch. The one who stacked early. The one who stayed smart. This is asymmetric positioning at its finest. Not hype. Not hope. Strategy. And the ones who get it now, they're not just buying a token. They're buying a future seat at the economic table that will define the next generation. If you're holding XLM, now is absolutely not the time to sleep on this. This isn't just another coin on your watch list. This is your front row seat to the rise of the next financial powerhouse. Hit subscribe on Be Crypto Smart for the deep dive, no fluff crypto breakdowns you won't get anywhere else. No hype, no noise, just pure signal. We're watching the next 1% form in real time. Don't miss your chance to be part of it.